You know, there's something violently ironic about not being able to remember if I took my dementia pills today or not. What is that? It looks like I have a bald spot. I'm not balding. It's just separated right there for some stupid reason. You know, this shirt isn't a V-neck, but this mic is heavy enough to where it's pulling the collar down and making it look like a V-neck. I don't want to look like I'm wearing a V-neck. I'm not that genre of man. You know what? I'll wear my Gojira shirt instead. What is up, all my horny headstock-loving homunculi? Den here. It is time for our monthly tier list video. And this month's tier list video is going to be famous electric guitar headstocks. You guys already know the jig. I shouldn't have to repeat it, so I'm not gonna. I'll repeat this part. I got a lot of headstocks in this video, but I know I didn't get all of them. I only got the ones that my little thinker could think of in the moment. So if I missed your favorite, go ahead and leave it down in the comments, and I will put it in part 2. Let's get this show on the road, shan't we? As you can see, today we have a whole legion of famous electric guitar headstocks that we are going to be ranking in today's tier list video. My tier list videos always have a gag, and today's gag is going to be what my relationship would be with these headstocks. As we all know, this past weekend was the holiday all about love. If you are trying to have a baby come November, I hope that mission was a success. And if you are not trying to have a baby come November, then I hope it was not a success. Our S tier for today's video is going to be Forever Valentine. These are for my favorite headstocks that currently exist. If I see these headstocks out in public, I say, damn girl, if practice makes perfect, then your parents' names must be Practice and Practice. They are truly the best of the best. And that is not my opinion, that is objective fact. We all know I only speak the truth around here, boys and girls. There is no subjectivity revolving around my tier lists. No siree, Bobber Tina. This video is already a train wreck. Yeah, I'm kidding. If you are blind to this thing called sarcasm, these videos are just my subjective opinion. So don't let it ruin your day if I give something a ranking you don't like. Any hooser. Our A tier for today's video is going to be long-term relationship. I don't know if I would stay with these headstocks for the rest of my life like I would with the S tier headstocks, but we would definitely be in a long-term relationship. One that would be very, very sad if it were to end. And then our B tier for this video is going to be a situationship. I would definitely get together with this headstock. Maybe we wouldn't be able to call it a full-blown relationship. Maybe I would just text it every now and then at 2 a.m. saying, what you doing? But it's still a headstock that I would be fond of. The green lower middle tier in my tier lists always count as the mid tier. And today's mid tier is going to be a swipe right. Because I would still swipe right on these headstocks if I encountered them on Tinder or Hinge or Bumble or Facebook dating perhaps. However, it might not go anywhere. Maybe we would match, talk about the weather for 2 seconds and then never speak to each other again. Our D tier is going to be swipe left. I would swipe left on these guitars if I encountered them on Tinder or Hingball. Nothing against them personally. They are just personally not for me. Personally. And then our F tier is going to be prison. These headstocks belong in prison. Let's get into this, shall we? We are going to start off with an absolute banger, the Gibson open book headstock. Now we're just doing the headstock shape. I'm not going to do like a Les Paul standard headstock versus a Les Paul custom headstock. We don't need to do that. Even though this headstock is objectively not very good for tuning stability, it is still probably my favorite headstock shape in the entire world. I don't know, even though it is an inherently flawed design, I just love the way this thing looks, man. I am never going to look at an open book headstock and not have a stupid grin on my face. Especially if that open book headstock comes with the big, beautiful diamond inlay. If you guys have been around my channel at all, you would know that obviously the Gibson open book headstock is going to be my forever Valentine. Moving right along, we have the Epiphone Kalamazoo headstock. A lot of people are not really big fans of this headstock just because at certain angles it can look a little funny. When you're looking at it from face on like this, it kind of looks a little pear-shaped, you know? Like it's got those hips. But I actually quite like the way the Kalamazoo headstock looks, especially when it's oriented on its side. It's almost like a little optical illusion. When it's on its side, you can't really tell how pear-shaped it is, and it looks a lot more symmetrical. However, I am not afraid of no hips, I tell you what. And while I may not like it as much as the open book headstock, me and the Epiphone Kalamazoo headstock would still have a very long-term relationship. Moving on to the older Epiphone headstock. Even though the Kalamazoo headstock is technically the oldest one because they used that first, and then they went to this headstock, and then they went back to the Kalamazoo headstock. And, you know, it's okay. It used to get a lot of hate, and I actually used to despise it when I was a kid. Now that I've grown up a little bit, I really don't mind this headstock that much. I feel like the main thing I don't like about this headstock is when it's a custom, the diamond inlay is really small. I want my diamond inlay to be as big and obnoxious as it can be, and you just can't really fit a big diamond inlay on this headstock. However, I don't hate this headstock, so I would still swipe right on it. Moving right along, we've got the Gibson Flying V headstock. headstock. It looks like one of those Conehead guys from that movie Coneheads. And yeah, the same thing, like you can't really fit a full-size diamond inlay on this headstock. It's not gonna be my forever Valentine, and I might not have a long-term relationship with it, but I would definitely have a little bit of a situationship going on with a Flying V headstock. Moving on, we have the Gibson Melody Maker headstock. I feel like they put literally no effort into making this headstock. The Melody Maker is kind of like a budget Gibson, and they were just like, bro, just put whatever on it. Just put a rectangle on it and call it a day. Yeah, it's not my favorite. Like, it's not the worst headstock shape in the world. I don't want to be mean, but I would swipe left. It's just not for me. Moving on, we have this thing. This is the Gibson Modern headstock, and it looks like an open book headstock that was dropped on its head when it was a baby, like really hard. Yeah, this headstock belongs in prison. I'm sorry. It should have never been created. It should have, whoever was in charge of Gibson should have swallowed that headstock. However, one headstock that does not belong in prison is the Gibson Explorer headstock, also known as the hockey stick headstock, you know, because it looks like a hockey stick. And they won't just put this on Explorers. Sometimes they'll put it on Flying Vs. Sometimes they'll even put it on Les Pauls if they really want to be on their freak shit. I am a fan of it. I think it looks pretty cool. I like it so much that I would be in a long-term relationship with it. That's a good looking headstock. Moving on to Fender headstocks, we are gonna start off with the base Fender headstock. It's aight, you know, it looks cool. I mean, as long as the tuners work good and the nut is cut right and the string trees work good, you're gonna have pretty rock solid tuning stability on a Fender headstock. Yeah, I don't mind it. I'd be in a situationship with a base Fender headstock. I think it looks pretty good. However, I am a bigger fan of the oversized 70s Fender Strat headstock. They literally just increased the size of it and suddenly it looked better. I don't know why. And I like it so much that I would be in a long-term relationship with a 70s oversized Fender Strat headstock. Up next, we've got the reverse oversized 70s Fender Strat headstock. And I like this even more. I don't know, my brain just likes looking at reverse headstocks more than I like looking at regular headstocks. Maybe it's because when it's reversed, the strings on the bass side are stretched out a little bit more and they might have a little bit more tension and you can whomp on them a little bit more. Maybe it just reminds me of Jimi Hendrix. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass and I just like the way reverse headstocks look. But regardless of why, I like them so much that they would also be my forever Valentine. We've got the Telecaster headstock, and I like the way it looks. I feel like I like the base Telecaster headstock more than I like the base Strat headstock. And because of that, I am happily gonna have a long-term relationship with a Fender Telecaster headstock. However, there's also this poor thing that should have never existed. And I think we can all agree that this headstock belongs in prison. I don't get good vibes from this headstock at all. I feel like this headstock's gonna pop up in the Epstein files one day. This thing belongs in prison and it needs to stay in there for its entire life. I do not like that at all. It makes me uncomfortable, actually. Moving on, we got a little bit of a silly guy. We have the headstock on a headless guitar. And I chose this lovely Aristides to represent the headless headstock in this headstock tier list. Headstock. And yeah, I know a lot of people get this unrelenting violent anger towards headless guitars, but I like them. I would happily be in a long-term relationship with a guitar that has no headstock, depending on the body shape. If it's like a Kiesel Vader, then yeah, long-term relationship. Maybe some of them I'd be in a situationship with, but it probably wouldn't go any lower than that. We've got the ESP LTD flag headstock. This is a good one. One of their logos is a flag, and they use that flag shape for both their inlays and the shape of their headstock. Whenever I talk about ESP LTD, everyone's like, I just wish it didn't have the squiggly headstock or the squiggly inlays. I don't like that. And I'm like, why? Some people are like weirdly offended by this headstock, and I think it's one of the better open book headstock alternatives. I think it works so well that this guitar is gonna be another one of my forever Valentines. Moving on to one of ESP's different 3x3 headstock shapes. This is the one that they'll put on like the Horizon and a few other random models. You know, it's okay. It's not the worst one out there. I think despite it not really being my favorite, I would still swipe right on it. Moving on to ESP LTD's version of a Fender Strat headstock. You know, it looks like they got one of those ice cream scoopers and just scooped out that little ball that Fender has on their headstocks right there. And I like it. I think it looks cool. I think me and this headstock would still have a little bit of a situationship going on. However, when you take ESP Ltd's Strat style headstock and you reverse it, suddenly it looks a lot better. I would be in a long-term relationship with a reverse ESP Ltd Strat style headstock. Moving on to the ESP Ltd Banana headstock. It's basically a Gibson Explorer headstock that's a little bit more filled out. It's got a little bit more girth, if you will. I would be in a committed long-term relationship with an ESP Ltd banana headstock. But when it comes to the reverse banana headstock, I would still probably be in a long-term relationship with it. I don't know, this is probably the one 6 inline headstock shape that I like equally either way. I think it looks sick in both orientations. Moving on to the ESP Ltd pointy 6 inline headstock. Like they just got a knife and just cut some sharp edges into it and made it a little bit more edgy, made it a little bit more metal. I'm okay with it. I like the way it looks. It looks pretty cool. I would be in a pretty fun situationship with the 6 inline pointy. Now, when it comes to the reverse, that's that good shit right there. I think it looks even more edgy and even more metal when it's reversed, but in a good way. I would have a long-term relationship with the reverse pointy. Now let's check out some Schecter headstocks, starting off with the Schecter Solo 2 headstock. This guy's a little silly. I think I still have a picture of a Gibson and Schecter headstock doing a little coitus. Yeah, when they line up and want to do a little bit of this action. What do they say in Snowpiercer? Everything is in their exact place. I don't know. I just rewatched Snowpiercer the other day and it just made me think of that. And yeah, that's kind of like the funny little gag about this headstock. It's just like the polar opposite of the Gibson open book headstock. It doesn't look as good. I'm okay with it. I think it looks okay. I would definitely swipe right on it, but if it just hits me up saying like, hey, I'm not going to put in the effort to keep the conversation going. Up next, we've got Schecter's other 3x3 headstock shape. Yeah, it's okay. I think the guitars that they put this headstock shape onto would just look better with a reverse 6 inline headstock. Yeah, I'd still swipe right on it, but again, it'd depend on how enthusiastic the headstock is about continuing the conversation. However, the Rob Scallon signature Schecter models have a cool little variation on this headstock shape where it's like a two-tone thing, and I think that improves the look of this headstock shape quite significantly. I think this looks really good and really classy. I would have a situationship with it, and it would be a fun situationship. It would be a situationship that my long-term relationships would kind of be a little jealous of. We've got Schecter's version of their Fender Strat headstock. This gives me like Swan vibes. I don't know why. It doesn't even really look like that, but I like it. I really like it. I would also be in a situationship with it. Maybe it'll be a little toxic, but we'd have a grand old time. However, when it's the reverse, I gotta stop doing that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with this truss rod. It looks like Dr. Doom. I'm so excited for Doomsday, guys. But yeah, when Schecter or anyone else takes their 6 inline headstock and they put that thing down, flip it, and reverse it, I'm gonna like it quite a bit more. And I like it when they add this little chunk of wood right here to it. That's just natural. They don't put a veneer or paint it. I think that is a very nice, classy little touch. I like the way it looks so much that it would be my forever Valentine. You know what? I think I'm going to retroactively move the regular ESP banana headstock to Forever Valentine. I think I like it that much. Moving on, we've got Charvel and Jackson's version of the pointy 6 inline headstock. I think this one came first, which is a good or a bad thing depending on who you ask. I think it looks really cool with this oversized Charvel logo. I think that adds to the look quite a bit. I like this shape. I would have a nice little romp with this guitar. I don't know if I'd commit to it that much, but I'd have a nice little summer fling. But when you reverse the Jackson headstock, yeah, that's nice. That's really nice. I had a Jackson with this headstock for a really long time, and we got along quite well. Me and that guitar had a very long-term relationship. Up next, we've got PRS's 3x3 headstock. And this is the one like 3x3 inline headstock that I really like. I feel like when most people look at this headstock, at first they're kind of like, ooh. But over time, the more and more they look at it, the more they hang out with it, the more they learn about its personality, it really starts to grow on them, and they develop quite the attraction to it. I would have a very great long-term relationship with a PRS headstock. We have the EVH Wolfgang headstock. I like how it's just a tiny, stumpy little guy. Like, have you guys ever played a Wolfgang? They are surprisingly small guitars, and the headstock is especially tiny. Like, it's literally like this big. I would happily be in a long-term relationship with that little short queen. Now Now we've got the Ernie Ball Music Man 4x2 headstock. It looks all right. It looks especially all right when it's made out of flamed roasted maple. But yeah, when Ernie's Balls started making guitars on top of guitar strings, they have always pretty much used this headstock, and me and Ernie's headstock would have a nice little situationship going on. Moving on to this little edgelord, we've got the BC Rich 3x3 headstock. This one wouldn't just work at Hot Topic. It would get fired from Hot Topic, and then it would go work at Spencer's. And then it would get fired from Spencer's, and then it would go work in an adult video store. But I'm not gonna lie to you, my friends. I love the way this headstock looks. Yeah, this is like a dominatrix headstock. She knows your safe word is peaches, and she does not care. Yeah, me and this headstock would be in a very steamy, possibly violent, yet consensual long-term relationship. Yeah, that headstock is definitely gonna tie me down and burn me with candles. And I'm all right with that. And last but defiantly not least, I think it's really funny when people try to say definitely and then they say defiantly. Happens way more often than you think, and it makes me laugh every time. But we've got the Ibanez 6-inline headstock. It's fine. It's not my favorite headstock, but I don't hate it. I'd swipe right on it. However, yeah, the reverse Ibanez 6-inline headstock, that's nice. But I don't think I like it quite as much as some other 6-inline reverse headstocks. I'd have a nice little situationship with it. But that is gonna conclude our famous electric guitar Valentine's themed headstock tier list. It's kind of hard to make me dislike a headstock. You gotta be either really boring or just do some fucked weird shit to make me dislike a guitar's headstock. But that is gonna wrap up today's tier list. Thank you guys so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, let me know, leave a like on this video. Definitely go down there, leave a comment. I love to hear what you guys have to say. Give me your thoughts and opinions. Let me know which headstocks I missed for a potential part 2. Share the video around, and if you regularly watch my videos and you haven't already subscribed, then these two headstocks are gonna break out of prison, and they are gonna cause a traumatic event in your life. I tell you what, these things are demented. You'll need therapy after what they do to you. Like, I might even feel bad about what they do to you if I sick them on you. And like, it might even haunt me personally. So I think I'd hit the subscribe button purely just for your own self-preservation. Big shout out and a thank you to A Horse Running, Solar Flare, Rob Heath, Jester MH, The Brandon Baker Clone, Exlani JC, Leagues Beneath, Scott Toman, Big Tills, Monkey Madness, Ollie Gilbert, Black Garlic Jr., Bandage Knives, Mr. Cause, Robert Dalen, Mac No Cheese, K. Ryan Prasad, John Evans, and Bob Threaton. I've had to add names to this list like 3 weeks in a row. You guys are the best. But these big old badonkadonks are my current channel members, and their support really does mean a lot. If you want to join them, get a shout out in my longer videos, get access to the members only videos, and just help support this channel in a bigger way, then you can go down there, click the join button. Tiers start as low as 3 schmeckles. There's also the super thanks button down there if you just want to give me some money. But I'm done being a tool. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.
Adios.